Good morning, everyone. It is an immense pleasure to welcome you all to the expert lecture on cyber forensics in the digital era, a topic of immense importance in safeguarding our digital future. We are fortunate to have with us Ms. Tanya Gupta from Barclays, who is an agile practitioner and assistant vice president at Barclays, where she is leading projects within risk and finance technology. She has more than 6 years of intensive experience in the fintech sector. She has worked with multiple Fortune 500 companies in United States. Her commitment to driving innovation is evident in her work related to agile transformation and project management. Tanya possesses an impressive academic background that includes bachelor's degree in computer science and master's degree in IT leadership and cybersecurity, which effectively combines technical expertise with strategic foresight. As an engaging public speaker, she captivates her audience by sharing her insights on technology, cybersecurity, project management, data science, and STEM education. Her inaugural book, Discovering the Silver Bullet, serves as an invaluable resource on agile methodologies presented through practical scenario that empowers readers to reevaluate project management practices. In addition to her influential role at Barclays, Tanya advocates for thoughtful leadership and innovative problem solving across various industries, leaving a positive impact wherever she operates. Her passion and commitment to excellence are truly commendable. I welcome you, Ms. Tanya, to this lecture. Now the session is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for introducing me, and I'm so glad to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
All right. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. And before I introduce and before I go through the PPT, I just want to make sure that this is an interactive session. So you are very welcome to ask questions at any time you feel something is in your mind or anything you are concerned with. And you're always welcome to share your feedback on anything that I'm sharing. So please, let's make you most use of this session so that everybody should be interactive and everybody should ask questions and challenge the discussion that we are doing here. All right. Can we move to our first slide? Okay, so I'm going to start with what is cyber forensics. I'm assuming everybody knows, but it's always good to revise the basics. And here, I come from a fintech background, and I've seen a lot of cyber frauds and scams and phishing activities, hacking activities, and within the IT sector, within the fintech sector. So I know, like, this is not just a topic. This is something which we do as a BAU activity in our workspace, and it's a really important domain as of today because the data protection rules are real. Europe has this rule called GDPR, which is very critical and which is being operated in UK and the US as well. So with all these rules coming in, cybersecurity and cyber forensics has even grown bigger, and that's why it's really important that some of us could just study it in more detail and present some great insights and some great accolades in cyber forensics, so that when something like this happens, there are masters within the academics as well, so that they can also encounter these attacks with their education and what they have built in their education journey so far. So, to introduce cyber forensics, it's basically the practice of collecting evidences and presenting it in a way that it is actually acceptable. So, when I say cyber forensic, it's not just a job where you are investigating a crime. You're actually making sure that the process that you follow while investigation is actually recorded, documented in a way that it can be admissible in the court of law as well. Because most of the crimes that are happening within cyber domain, they are they involve like $1 million investment. They involve losses of either finance, or a lot of data is being under scrutiny, a lot of data loss is there. So that's why all of these cases are mostly presentable to the court, and that's why it's very necessary that whatever practice we follow while understanding the crime, identifying all the evidences and analyzing them, we follow it through a proper analysis, and we document each and every step that we are doing while performing that investigation. So and I feel like the crimes, in terms of crimes, if we speak, the cyber crimes is a very very huge domain. It involves computers and digital data, but within the computers it could be a very simple attack by just copying somebody's password. Even if you are sitting next to somebody in the train, and you were entering your password on your any device, and somebody can sneak in into your device and they can see. So it could be very simple, and it could be very big, where we have seen like massive attacks on big giants such as Microsoft, Sony, Netflix. All of these have faced cyber crimes time to time, and they have dealt with it in their own ways. So today we are going to discuss about what are the core concepts of cyber forensics, what are the type of threats we have, then what's the future of cyber forensics, how you guys could build a career in cyber forensics, and then we'll also discuss some good case studies that have been in the past, and we can learn from them, like how these big companies have actually faced the crisis and how they overcome it. And yeah, so this is what our objective is for today. Before moving forward, I'm just opening the forum for a quick question. Can anybody share what's the difference between cybersecurity and cyber forensics? Anyone wants to take a guess?
Hello, good morning, ma'am. My name is Bello Musa Bello. The difference between cybersecurity and cyber forensic is that cybersecurity is used in protection against cyber crimes, while cyber forensic is investigating after the crime has happened.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much. So, yeah, that's the very correct explanation. A lot of people really think that these two things are similar, but actually, they are very similar in the kind of steps we take while witnessing or identifying a crime that has been done, or while protecting our companies from any crime to take place. But then they are not similar. They are just the processes that happens. One is before something is done, and one, cyber forensics, is done after the crime has actually taken place. And then within the companies, within the corporates, even in the corporates, if you see, there is no, like, very few corporates really have different departments for cyber forensics and cyber security. Mostly it's just a cyber security department, and everybody has their own roles and responsibilities, and they just sit within this big domain, and then they perform different steps depending upon their expertise and depending upon their forte. Okay, so now that we have discussed like what is cyber forensics and why is it important, given that we are using computers for almost everything that we are doing. We are using TV to watch, and we are connecting TV from the internet every single day. So basically, everything that we are doing in this digital era is somehow connected to the bigger world, somehow connected to the internet, to so many other people, that we are prone to these attacks every single day. And I would say every single minute of the day we are prone to these attacks. And that's why it's really important for us to take some basic steps that could help us prevent from this mishaps to happen with us, and then prevent us to face any kind of financial losses that occur as part of any cybersecurity attack that we are prone to. Okay, so can we move to the next slide? Hi, can we move to the next slide? Okay. Perfect. So these are some of the key types of cyber threats: phishing attacks, digital fraud and identity theft, data breach, malware, and viruses. So with phishing attacks, it's basically the practice of just like attempts to acquire sensitive information, which is most of the time it's passwords. It could be account details. It could be even security questions that we enter as part of the account creation process. And people generally stalk you with through the social media channels to see, okay, who could be your possibly your pet, to see if you have posted any pictures with your pet. They can also see like what's your birth date, and depending upon all these information, getting it from one or the other means, they try to put it together and see that if they can hack into your account. And another way of doing it is just like a hit and trial method, which is also called brute force attack, where you can just randomly put in passwords to see combinations of passwords to see that if it is working out or if it is not working out. And then if somebody has a really short password or something which is like very simple, their nickname, their pet name, it could be easily hackable and could be easily prone to the attacks that the phishing attackers do. Then the digital fraud is another major, I would say, one of the biggest threats that's happening these days, which is it could be either done through social engineering, it could be done through just like sneaking into somebody's account. Somebody has left their passwords on paper, they could do it through that. It could be anything, but basically we are just impersonating some other person and doing the activity so that the blame could go on that person and not just who is impersonating the identity of some other person. So this is very common, and this is one of the biggest threats that's being used in most of the activities. People just impersonate themselves so that even if the criminal is found, it's still unknown because the actual criminal was impersonating somebody else. So that's one of the most common ones. Then we have data breach, which is very common with big firms. So whenever there is some unauthorized access, or whenever it could be even possible that an employee, suppose Amazon has so much of data, they are dealing with accounts and customer orders every single day. They have billions and billions of data. And then there is companies like Microsoft or Apple. So if some employee of these companies, if they just plan to sell the data of the customers and take some money for it, it could lead to it could reach to potential data breach. And all of these thefts where somebody either indirectly or directly give access to the customer data or to any insensitive or sensitive data, that reach to a data that leads to a data breach. Then the another important one is malware and viruses. I think that's another most common form of way to like attack anybody's machine, which is just like sending them a gif and then attaching some kind of malware link to it or some kind of spyware link to it. And then once that person clicks on the gif, they can easily get it downloaded automatically on their machine without their information. So it's really important for us to even look at all the links that we are opening. A lot of people post YouTube links on their status these days, and we just click on them to see what it is. But sometimes these links have hidden spywares and ransomwares in it, and once you open it, they record all the activities that is happening on your computer, and they can see everything which is happening, and they can even put a Trojan in your machine. Actually, anybody knows what's a Trojan attack? Trojan spyware or Trojan virus attack?
Yes, ma'am. There is a speaker, please.
Good morning, ma'am. Children's attack is just to send someone, virus in his computer. For example, like when he opens a website, you understand, or when you open any kind of folder, it will copy all his information or personal information. And after that, he can use that to defeat him or attack him. You can use that as a mechanism of cheating the person who is opening the site.
That's correct. Yeah. And another important thing about Trojan is that it multiplies itself. So even if you're trying to remove one of it, it might be possible that a lot of copies have already been made in your machine while you are deleting that one copy. So it's really important to see the source of this virus just coming into your machine and then eliminated it from the source, so that all the replications are also deleted. Because if we are just going to delete every replication that we are finding, then it is almost impossible to identify the source, and then you'll always keep on getting attacked by this kind of cybercrime. So another question before we move to the next slide: anybody wants to share any other cyber threats that they are aware of?
Hello, good morning, ma. My name is Huzaifa Sadia Kasim. A cyber threat that I'm aware of is like Pegasus software that was
Yeah.
built by Israel for like spying or investigating some other individuals in many countries, which you cannot be able to detect or even rectify that system or that software is in spying on your devices or something like that.
Yeah, that's a very good example, and that was one of the most popular attacks that happened even when cybersecurity or cyber attacks domain was not very popular. At that point, this attack happened. So thank you so much for sharing that example with us. And yeah, we will go forward and we'll look into more threats that are being happening these days. So, Nidhi ma'am, can we move to the next slide? So before I start with this slide, I see a message in the chat as well from Zoya, where she's saying that she saw recent news where iPhone has used their Siri to record the communication of the iPhone users without using Siri. So yeah, that's correct. And it's not just iPhone. I feel like any like you're if you're using Alexa, if you're using Siri on the Apple Pods, all of these machines, if you see the light is always revolving. That's because they are always almost recording whatever communications you're having. They say that they do it so that their machines could operate better, like they can give you better answers. They can communicate in the languages which is like a local language that you speak at home. But actually, yes, they are recording all of this data, and sometimes you might have seen or you might have noticed that you're only discussing in your house, like, hey, should we buy that product, or what do you think about this product from Samsung, or what do you think about this product from LG. And then later when you'll open your phone, you will see that you will spot that those ads from those very companies will be shown on your devices. So that means they're really listening to your communications in the real time, and they are actually selling this data in real time as well to the company, so that they can give you the ads at that very moment. And it basically increases the likelihood of you buying something as soon as you see it. So that's happening. That's actually a good note, and I feel like everybody should be very aware of all the devices that are on. If it is possible, you can always turn off these devices if you're not using them, so that any communication that you're having and you don't want it to be sellable information, it just don't go out in the public. So yeah, okay. So on this slide, basically it's an activity for all the students. Here we are basically trying to spot the cyber threat. I've already highlighted the points, the pain points that are identifiable in these email screenshots. But I would like some of you to see, and once we see here, then on the next slide some of you can also tell me like what's happening and why is it actually a noticeable sign of any attack that might be occurring through this email. So if you see the first one, the name says Apple support, but if you see the email address, it's just gibberish. It does not say anything about where it is coming from. So sometimes what happens is when we get these emails, we just see the name, and if the name is familiar to us, we just simply send the reply or we just click on the links. But actually, it's very important that we always see under the name what email ID is it coming from. Is it actually a genuine email ID from the domain that it says about, or would it be something just like this? Because a lot of time people just fall into these very easy threats, very easy attacks, in where they're just like clicking on the links because they think it's from some service provider that they're using. It could be Flipkart, Myntra, Apple, Amazon. It could be anyone, and the email address within it is always something else, and that's how they do these quick attacks. And this is the most easiest way of getting data and selling it to somebody else for money. Then the second one is basically an item where it says that item shared with you, Office of the President PDF. So now it looks like a very important email, but we should always question like, why would the president send me an email if I'm a student of the university? So all of these things, like you have little doubts, always clarify them, always challenge them. Why should I respond to this email? Why should I click on this link? Is it really useful? Is it really and says where it is coming from? So here it says that mail up follow shared an item, and then it also gives you the university or domain email address, which makes it even more authentic. And then it says that they've requested you to view the file. So this is a very tempting email. It is coming from the university email address, it is coming from the president, and you always want to see at the file like what have they sent you. But do question, why would the president send you a file? Why there is no to, why there is no cc, why there is no student groups? And before even opening, if you think that okay, this might be a genuine email, always look for the contacts. Is any mirla existing in your university? Is there any because if it is coming from somebody with that name, then they might be there. And you can always cross check with them, hey, is this actually safe to open? Should I really see what it is there? And then you should open it. So these are like quick hacks where you can identify some of the attacks and you can prevent it even before happening. And sometimes when the crime has already happened, from a cyber forensics standpoint, you can always look on these details to see maybe it is that simple, and you don't have to look into a lot of intrinsic details before going through these small and easy points. So now I would like to again open it for you guys to say that I have marked hello user, we received your instructions to delete your account. We will process your request within 24 hours. All features associated with your account will be lost, and to retain your account, kindly cancel request to continue using our services. Cancel request immediately, there is a link associated with it. So, and it also says that please do not reply to this message. Mail sent to this address cannot be answered. So, anybody wants to tell me why this sounds like a attack, or how can you figure out that it is actually a threat and you should prevent it?
Good day, madam. My name is Abdurrahman Imran. I'm a student from here at Shobhit University. So the reason why it is very dangerous to click on the point of view here is they are trying to make you click the link. So that link will be the source of the, maybe let's say, malware, or the as in malware, spyware, or something like that. So they are just trying to say cancel request immediately. So that particular link will be because they already tell you that they will delete your account within 24 hours, all the details, and then you'll be afraid, trying to say, let me click this particular link to cancel this particular request for me to save myself from losing my data. So, but they are trying to trick you to click that particular link for that particular malware to be activated. So I think that's the point.
Absolutely, that's a great point. They are trying to create a panic situation because it is generally seen that whenever somebody is in panic, they click on links very quickly, or they just react to the situation very quickly. So most of the times these emails, they just tend to like inculcate a situation where there's a lot of panic, and it could be a crisis moment for you, and you will feel, oh, my data will be gone if I'm not clicking on this link, and they'll just try to tempt you to click on it. So that's exactly that's a very good point, and thanks for noticing it. So the last one is like, you have received one new secure message. First of all, you will see that it is never actually a secure message. If it is secure, it will never say something like you've received one new secure message. That's your first cue. Then it will say that the link would be like www.edu. So this is very this is like another click here, that it's not www, it's www. So these small things, when you actually identify and when you actually collect evidence for cyber forensics, it's really important to think about these minute details, because sometimes, like, if I am seeing it in a hurry, I'll see that it's triple w, it's not www. But when I'm going to look at it in a detailed point of view, and when I'm going to notice on everything that is given in this email, I'll see that actually one letter or one thing has been incorrectly placed. So that, and it's placed in a way that you will feel that it's www, but you will actually know that no, this is something else. So these are the small details that you need to focus on when you try to spot the threats and when you try to investigate a particular situation. Because a lot of times these guys know that the people they're attacking are not techie, or they are not even very familiar with the kind of attacks that are happening. They're just normal people who are doing their work, who are using these tools for their daily mail access, daily work, anything that they're doing. So they know that their audience is pretty much very I would say they are not that knowledgeable about the cyber threats happening. So they are just doing this, they're just using these quick hacks, and they are just easily making money out of it. So that's why we should always question, like, why would you be sending a secure message from a western address? And because the internal system is already secured, so why another domain needs to be like used to send a secure message? So these are some of the signs that one should use while, even while you are in the university, even because attacks do not tell names, they are open to all. When an attack is done, it's sent to like hundreds and thousands of people, and they're just waiting for that one person to click it and then just like make money out of it. So they don't know who are you, where are you studying, are you working, are you a senior citizen, are you a kid? They're just sending it out in mass, and they're just waiting for those people who can click it and they can make some money out of it. All right. Can we move to the next slide? We have a couple more examples here. If you see that, again, I have highlighted, like, it says that the email address is a Gmail address, while it says that it's billing support. So if you are seeing a billing support email, but actually with a Gmail address, that's kind of fishy, because any billing company would use their own domain address to send you like that important message, because it's concerned with the bills that you are paying. So you see that actually the client is getting this message for Amazon, and it's Amazon billing support, but actually the email address is @gmail.com, which should be actually @amazon.com or amazon.co.in, something like that. So we should always question, why is a proper company using a Gmail address to send you an invoice? And then the next queue is the customer assistant support. The number looks kind of weird, because I don't know how many of you are familiar with the way of writing +1 numbers, but actually it's just three numbers and then four numbers and then four numbers. It's not like 3 3. So basically the format is also wrong. So these are like small mistakes that people do, and they think that nobody will notice. And if you are not from that field, and if you are not really careful about reading the emails, that you might make mistakes while opening these emails and clicking on them. So I've also highlighted some of the red liners here at the bottom of the slide, that as one of you have mentioned, urgent requests, creating a panic situation is one of the most common way of causing the person to act before investigating the authenticity of the request. Then bad spelling, grammar, and then like incorrect formats. These are another ways to identify that okay, this might be a phishing message and it might contain something which is notorious. Then mismatched email address information, like email address is a Gmail address, whereas the company is a big company. Then it could be a generic signature line, like a university message is typically signed by a university official. But if you see that the name is random and you cannot verify that name, that definitely something is phishing about it. Then unexpected request regarding personal information, that's another important one. Like if the university is asking you or if your company is asking you for personal information, they'll have a good reason for it. But if somebody is actually just like sending you a random email and asking you questions, or even asking you about any contacts that you know, basically they are trying to see if they can get through your security questions by knowing a little bit more about you. A lot of people these days, they know that they are not supposed to give their passwords, but they don't know that even if somebody do not know your password, if they can get your security questions, they can change your password and they can get the control of your account. And sometimes we are so careless because I think all of us have a social media account. All of us are putting our day-to-day activities over there. We are updating our locations, we are updating where we are eating, we are updating where we are shopping, and this is all data, this is all sellable data. Everything is being controlled. It's all part of the bigger universe where you are just giving all the information out there. If you'll say that who's my favorite pet or where did I study my high school, and then people could go through your social media and they can see, oh, this guy studied at this high school, and they can easily guess it out and see that okay, the security question is now compromised. So be very careful that whenever you are answering these security questions as well, it's really important to say that the kind of answer you are giving is either tricky or it involves some language which only you know and it is not there on any social media platform. So whenever we are identifying these crimes, and whenever we are a part of cyber forensics, and sometimes we get these questions from the clients that, hey, I opened a credit card and it was on your name, but I see that there is a bill occurred from my account and I didn't do that shopping. And then we figure it out, like we need to analyze what just happened. And then we see that credit card, how it is used, where it is used, who used it, how did they get into their account, why is like how did they crack their password. And then we get to all these small details like okay, the password might be hackable in this form. Because for us to analyze and identify how that crime is happening is not just enough. You also need to figure out why is it happening, what's the mistake that the user is doing, and we can alarm them for any future threats, and we can alarm many similar to them so that they don't do a mistake which somebody else already did. So that's why it's really important for us to identify these small details, like why is it happening, and not just who did it. And okay, we have identified the culprit and let's put them behind the bars. That's not enough. We also need to identify how they are able to do it and why they are doing it. So that's way, if we know the approach, we can do something about securing that approach, and we can figure it out, and we can prevent it from happening in the future. That's the main reason why cyber security and cyber forensics go hand in hand. Because if some cyber forensics guy is saying that hey, I identified this crime and this is done by this person, this is the approach they have used, then the cyber security guy comes into the picture. They'll be like, oh, they have used this approach, why don't I control it, why don't I put in security protection at that point. And that's how they prevent it from happening in the future. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so here is a quick slide about what makes a good password, because this is the most important thing and this is the most easiest way to get into somebody's account. If your password is known, then you don't really know. Like if you get somebody's password, you don't need big tricks, you don't need big tools, a lot of analysis, a lot of loggings. You can simply enter the password and get into that person's account. So can anybody tell me like what's the ideal password length that should be used if you want to prevent yourself from any attack?
Okay, if you want to prevent yourself from any kind of attack, so you have to use very strong password, like a password containing, a numeric, alphanumeric, characters, ASCII, different kind of combinations of those things like add, hash, dot, asterisk, dollar sign, you know, slash, etc., etc. So a combinations of them, because in a situation whereby attackers are trying, they used to do what we call they used to exhaust all the chances, like in permutation and combination principle, to check how many times they will try your password for them to attack you. You understand? But when you put all those things in a very long terms, you understand. So it's hard for them to check all the chances for them to attack you safely. Thank you.
Thank you. And can you also tell me, like, if you know the length of the password, like an ideal length, that how long should the password be?
Yeah, at least let's say 60 characters. 60.
16. Yeah.
16, almost at least 16.
Thank you. So yeah, generally, if you will see in the training sessions, or if you will see outside, they'll always say that okay, 12 to 14 characters in a password could make it really protective. But in the hacking world, in the cyber forensics world, we always say that the password should be at least 16 to 18 characters long. And we also say that as long as you have a very, very lengthy password, the less amount of threat you have from any attack that is being planned around you. So make sure that the password length is really good enough. A lot of times people just like give these simple passwords, and that's why the attackers really very easily go into their systems, and they do not even have to do the brute force attack. It's very easily done by any simple penetration attacks, and they are able to guess the password that the person is carrying. And that's why, to avoid that, and because not everybody is keeping a 16 characters password, and they are not able to remember it as well. That's why companies started using multi-factor authentication, where they are just sending an OTP on your phone to just confirm your identity, and that's just preventing a lot of attacks to happen, because now you've added a second layer of authentication while doing something. And if you see, a lot of credit card companies even started to add three layers of security. What they'll do is, once you go into the account to make a bigger transaction, they'll first ask you any security question, then they'll ask you an OTP at the point of a transaction that you're doing, and sometimes they also send you a confirmation email right after the transaction is done, to say that hey, something like this has happened on your email ID as well as on your phone, so that if you have not done it, let us know right now, so that they can reverse that transaction. So that's how companies are also building their security into a more enhanced way, and making sure that they are also eliminating some threats, rather than expecting users to do all the like plannings and all the alarming activities that they should do. Okay, can we move to the next slide? All right, so now we'll discuss about the cyber forensics process. Now that we know the basic threats, the basic activities that happen, it's important to understand like how this whole process works. And definitely, if you'll go through a textbook, it might involve a little bit more detailed process. But I just kept this to show like high level overview of how this happens in corporates. So in corporates, we take like four steps, where the identification is the first one, where we identify whenever a new crime occurs, and whenever we are notified, like, okay, there is a new crime, whenever, suppose there's a cyber forensics investigator, suppose that is me. So I'll identify what is the potential source of the evidence, whatever I have got until now, where am I getting it from, who's the person, what the person suffered, what kind of loss the person suffered, do they already have some some people who they feel like they might be like potential suspects. And then I will try to create like locate critical evidence relevant to the investigation. So once I'm done with all the identification parts, then I will go towards preservation. Preservation is basically a very um, It's a tricky concept because sometimes when it's an internal crime or it's a very small attack that has been done, preservation does not really matter that much. But sometimes the attack causes a financial loss of millions, and that's when preservation is a very critical part, because the way you are collecting these evidences, the way you are organizing them, the way you are documenting them, recording them, placing them in a way that they're not tempered or touched by anybody else, it is all going to be presented to the court. And that's why it's very important that you do it in a way that you are very confident about it, because you would be the one who would stand there in the court and say that this is how I did this process, this is how I collected the evidence, this was the original state, it has not been altered, and exact copies should be there with you, so that if somebody tries to do something which is illegal or which is unethical, you already have secured copies so that you can show it into the court. This really plays a very important role when the person who has suffered not just financial loss, but also it could be loss of lives, it could be any other emotional damage. And that's when it's very important that we preserve these evidences in a way that nobody else tempers them. Then comes the phase of analysis. Once we have collected and identified, then we need to analyze, like, what's going on, why is this done, how is this done, who did it, and identify, recover the files. Sometimes we get these broken laptops, broken phones, broken disks, and it's really difficult to recover data from these devices. And that's when we use these software tools that have been designed by companies, either open source tools or even tools which are internal to the companies. All of these tools are used to recover the files, identify the activities, how these are done, and then analyze the metadata. Metadata is basically data within the data. So suppose I know the person, but I want to understand where this person has studied, if they have pets, when were they born, where did they go to school, where they're currently located, who's their wife, who's their husband. So all of these information is a metadata that we get about any person while we analyze the evidences. And then comes the most important part, reporting, where we are documenting the findings and in a clear and organized manner. And then we are preparing a report about what we feel is right and how we feel about this investigation. How do we want to present it to the court of law? So, this is the basic and high level cyber forensics process that is pretty much followed for every high level or small level crime that has been done. um, right next to it, I have identified CIA. So CIA triad is very famous. It's basically a CIA triangle which says confidentiality, integrity, and availability. This is a triad which is taught both in cyber forensics, in risk assessments, and in cybersecurity, because this goes hand in hand, all three duties, where confidentiality is something, if you are working on a crime, even if it is so fascinating, if it is about a celebrity, if it is about somebody you are a fan of, you are not supposed to tell any information related to that, either the evidence, either the crime or the suspects, to anybody else. You want to make sure that the data, whether it's in the spoken form or it's in the documented form, it's just with you if you are part of the investigation. Then comes integrity, again a very similar keyword and a very similar operating manner, but then it involves maintaining data accuracy and reliability. When I say that this data is not being tempered, I could say it with full integrity, that I have not done something wrong and I know that somebody else has not also done it. So I should be very confident and very integral about the whole process while I'm doing it. And then comes availability and accessibility is like kind of similar, where we are just making sure that any data that we have collected, identified, analyzed is actually available as well. It should not be the case that you say, oh, I've done the investigation, but then something happened, the data got removed, or it's not available, or it's not accessible when I actually need it. So we need to make sure that we adhere to these three core responsibilities, or I would say the three core principles, while following any process within the whole domain as in general, and not just cyber forensics. Okay, let's move to the next slide. Okay, so now that we know the process, these are some of the key concepts in cyber forensics. And the so basically I would start with the first one, which is called digital evidence, which by now we all know what kind of digital evidence it could be. It could be any information that is available on the internet about you would be considered digital evidence. And then metadata analysis, as I said, it could include files, emails, logs, images, browsing history, and then examining metadata to cover uncover additional information. It could be like your GPS location, it could be your timestamps, what were you doing at particular time. It could be how many screens you are using, what were you doing on each individual screen. All of these informations are analysis, and they're kind of evidence. When they come together, they are able to tell us a story about the person. Sometimes, like, when we are investigating a crime, we are not just investigating that particular situation. We also want to identify how that person is, what's the story behind that person. When we identify all of these metadata information about them, then we guess, then we get that person, we know why they're doing it, where are they coming from. And then we can potentially even guess sometimes their next activity, or what next action would they take, that so that we can like kind of capture them into their activity red handed, and then we can bring them to us. So because a lot of times these crimes, if we do not have the evidence, we cannot say like how it happens in a theft, in a physical theft. If you're not seeing the person who is doing the theft red-handed, then you cannot say that okay, that person has done it, unless there is a solid evidence. Same happens with cyber forensics. So you need either solid evidence, or you need a story to lure them into another attack that they will do, and then we can easily catch them red-handed while doing it. Another important concept is chain of custody. This is a concept which comes with legal associations. So it might be possible that if you're working for a company with where you are just like inquiring about customer service activities, or any frauds that customer service people are recording on the telecalling lines, then probably chain of custody could be an important factor, because these would be regular users who might want to file a police complaint, and they might want to, financial compensations for to support what they have gone through. And then the chain of custody really comes into picture, because it helps you to maintain a documented and unbroken chain of custody of all the evidences that you've collected. And you can show it in the same way in the court, and you can make sure that okay, that this is up to the ethical guidelines that the court asks us to follow. And another thing was timeline analysis. So sometimes what people do is they even if it is a very small crime, they just always follow timeline analysis, where they just record each timestamp what they are doing at a particular time, and they already follow a stepwise process. So if somebody asks them to present it somewhere, they already have the data, they don't have to do any extra efforts to record something or make a report. They're already recording each time and each activity they are doing at any particular duration of time. So that's why chain of custody and timeline analysis comes together to make sure that anything that you are investigating is actually properly recorded and documented and reported. Then we have steganography. Steganography is basically the practice of hiding information within other files. So sometimes the attackers, they know that if we are doing a crime, somebody else is going to investigate it as well. So what they do is they hide it in a disk, in a message, in an image or audio file, so that the proper traces towards them could never be found. And this is another good way of like I said, gifs. So a lot of times we send gifs to our friends, families, and if you attach any particular hack to it is very easy to put that attack into motion. Then comes into picture anti-forensics. So since there is cyber forensics, there must be anti-forensics as well, which must be used by the cyber criminals. Any tool that is available for us, an alternate tool is available to them to make the attack. And that's why they're using techniques like encryption, file wiping, obfuscation. It could be like advanced tools to detect the steganographic files, like how steganography works into picture, and to recover any data wiped using anti-forensic methods. So when anti-forensics is done, then we use steganography to see like what these guys have done, and how we can basically get information through it. I've used a word called obfuscation here. For those who are not familiar with this word, it basically means to have the message uh, in a form that it is not really identifiable. For example, using code language. So using code language for any person, using code language for anything that you are doing. Sometimes these criminals communicate while doing the attacks. So they use code language, and they use language which we cannot identify and we cannot understand in a normal form. And they sometimes add more letters, more words to it, so that the person who is investigating their crime would take longer time to figure it out, like who did it, why they did it, and how they did it. So obfuscation is a process which is very massively used to cover the small names and small important information into large number of letters, characters, so that we are not able to identify them easily. Okay, any questions so far?
Good afternoon, ma. My name is Adam Ahmad Bahago. So I have a question concerning the cyber forensic process, as you have mentioned. Uh, that's the first step. We have identification, followed by preservation, then analysis, and also reporting. So, but I'm seeing that why is it that we are supposed to collect the data before identification? Why collection is not among the processes of data of cyber forensics? I think we're supposed to collect the data before we undergo identification.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I say identification, as I said, that if you go by the textbook style, all of these steps are segregated, and you'll see a 6 or 7 step process where you say, okay, collecting evidences, identifying them, preserving them, analyzing them. But when we see these things in corporates, it's basically a given that whoever is identifying the evidences, they're basically collecting them, because identification is a process of collecting evidence in itself. When you are saying that this might be an evidence, right? So you have identified it, and now you are ready to collect it, because not always you'll get people. The thing is, like, when when you were in the education era, at that point you will feel that when a crime occurs, all of the information will be given to you and you will collect it. But this does not happen in real situations. In real situations, you'll just get the crime. This is what has happened. This event occurred. Now what? So when you see that event occurred, then you have to identify a lot of scenarios: why it occurred, how it occurred, like what could be a potential explanation towards it. And then when you identify the blocks that builds this process, at that point, while identifying these blocks, you're actually collecting the evidences associated with them. So basically, when you identify this story, when you identify each and every part of that story, that event, at that very point, you're collecting the evidence associated with it. And that's how the collection of evidences and identification of evidences comes into picture hand in hand. Okay, so d- does that answer your question?
Excuse me, ma'am, there are certain questions apart from the slide. So can we ask?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, good morning, Ma. From what we seen from the slide, I highlighted some of the questions I want to ask quickly from spotting a cyber threats, and from that slide number 4, where you said most common way of getting a successful attack is by creating a panic or scareware. So I want to just ask, for example, before the person clicks a link, can a person highlight a link and then paste it in a web browser before clicking it? Is this a way of bypassing that link in order not to get hacked? Can someone highlight the link and paste it in a web browser to see if it's a legitimate link or not?
Yeah, you can highlight the link and you can say copy link address, and you can paste it in your browser. But as soon as you hit enter, it plays the same role. So yes, you can definitely copy the link and paste it in the browser to see what the link is, but you should never click on enter, because once you click on enter, it will be attached with your IP address browsing history.
Okay, then my next question is from the key concept of cyber forensics, this anti-forensics. So you said there are some anti-forensic tools and techniques. So I would just want to know one or two examples from the
Yeah,
tools or techniques
we
of
will cover that in the
anti-forensic.
next slide.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so yeah, I'll take more questions and I will definitely we are coming to the question that you just asked. So if we can move to the next slide. Okay, so there you go. So these are few forensic tools that are very commonly used, and we will also go into the details like how these tools can be used in real life scenarios. But first, I want to explain like what each tool is and how they work. So an FTK imager is basically a way of cloning someone's device. So suppose if I know that somebody has been attacked in a cyber crime, and this is a free tool, you can also use it just for experimentation purpose. You can create disk images of the devices. Try doing it for your own laptop. You will see a disk image of your laptop, and you will see everything, like bit for bit copy of everything, to see that whatever is happening in your laptop, and you'll be able to see the traces, like if anything is wrong, and you'll be able to identify and collect any suspicions that you have. Then comes autopsy. Autopsy and sleuthkit are basically these tools mostly are used in combination, because autopsy is again an open source tool. You can again use it and try it, and it assists in the analysis of disk images. So basically, when you have used FTK imager to clone your device and to create a disk image of your laptop, autopsy can be actually used to analyze the device that you have created. And it will be used for, because we cannot do all the analysis since it's a bit by bit encryption, and it's mostly zeros and ones. So autopsy helps us to analyze what's going on, if there is any suspicions, if there is any deleted files, it helps us to recover these files. It helps us to figure out the browsing history if it is deleted, and all the traces of any activity. And sleuthkit is basically working in the background of autopsy, which where it is the collection of command line tools that is being executed to show us the analysis that is being done through autopsy. So that's why I've said it is being used behind the scenes in autopsy and other forensic tools. And then we have Wireshark, which is another very common tool. This is basically a protocol analyzer, and it involves a detailed view of network data traffic. So it's often it's basically used when we say that, okay, I've got a malicious email. Now what? Where did it come from? Like I showed you the examples. Now I want to know where this email is coming from. So I'll use Wireshark to see my IP address, to see my all the packets that my IP address has received, and then to identify and analyze the traces within those packets, like which packet exactly had this thing that just occurred to me, and then how did it enter my system, and how I was able to like be a prone victim to this attack. So this is how these tools are used. Mostly all of the companies like they use these tools if they it's a small budget company, but if it's like a really big firm, they might even have their own internal tools that they have like built to identify all of these threats. But these are some of the good examples of open source and free tools that you might want to just go and explore yourself and play around it to see like how actually in the real world the analysis works, and how we can figure out like things when you will go into these tools and you'll see your own device, you will be able to see, okay, how this works, how the entire process works. So yeah, if we can go to the next slide. Okay, so lessons from the trenches. As I said that we have already saw the tools. Now we will see like how these tools were used in some of the biggest I would say, like some of the popular attacks that happened with some of the bigger firms. So the Sony Pictures hack was in 2014, which was very, very popular because it happened with the PlayStation. So the PlayStation network was compromised. As you know, Sony PlayStation is very famous. It actually exposed the data of 77 million users, and the breach led to the shutdown of this PlayStation for like, I think, 3 to 4 weeks. And at that point, when the PlayStation network was hacked, these tools like Sift workstation was used to analyze the logs, server data, and traces that were left behind by the attackers, to see like who actually did the breach, and to see the methods used by the hackers. As I said earlier as well, we also want to identify the methods they have used, so that we can prevent these attacks from happening in the future. And that's why when these tools were used, the breach was traced to actually a group of hackers. And Sony then worked with the authorities to like see like what actions could be taken. But then they also understood the importance of like continuous security monitoring, so that now they have involved like more endpoint security protections at each and every service that they are providing. And then they always use forensic analysis, like even like monthly and bi-weekly, to see that nothing or no kind of suspicions in traces are being seen in all of the traffic that they are getting through all these users. Another big one was British Telecom attack, where again there was a series of targeted cyber attacks. And I think this was a group of Chinese hackers who basically stole all the sensitive data that this global telecom was dealing with. And then again, forensic experts tracked the IP address. So if you see in this case study, the forensic experts actually tracked the IP address and analyzed the attack methods, which includes spear phishing emails. So, as I said, like Wireshark, it's used for an investigation just like this, where you track the IP addresses and you analyze the attack methods, and you see what kind of emails were there, and then the evidence they collected from there, that just helped them to identify the group that was associated with this espionage. And then yeah, they were able to confirm the scale of the attack only when they were able to identify the IP addresses, and it was a huge number of users that were compromised with this attack. And then again, once any company faces the attack, they just try to increase their securities, and they just try to build more comprehensive processes to monitor their systems, so that they do not fall prey to such attacks again in the future. And then we have the Ashley Medicine data breach. This one was again a popular one. Ashley Medicine is basically uh, platform for extramarital affairs. It's basically just like we have Tinder and all these in today's world. It was very popular back then, and it had information about people who were having extramarital affairs. And when this breach occurred, they like tried to blackmail the people with their personal data and videos that they had, and they earned a lot of money from each and every user whose data they got during this breach. So again, I don't know if you guys are familiar, but then recently, I think last year, within I think around July or August, there was a very popular attack that took place, which is from CrowdStrike. So CrowdStrike is one of the leading cybersecurity platforms today, and it has one of the biggest clientele. And Microsoft was one of their clients, and they were doing some kind of update, just a security update, and that update was flawed. It had some bugs, or I don't know if it was a breach because they never disclosed it, but it had some bugs. And as soon as the update was done, around 88 million users were like they were struggling. The supermarkets were closed, they were not able to accept payments. Hospitals postponed all the non-emergency surgeries. Even on the airports, people like these airplane attendants, they gave manual tag tickets to the people who were flying, and the tickets were also printed manually. So it was a attack that like around 24 hours it ran, but in 24 hours almost everything shut down that was using Microsoft in one or the other way. And it was posted all over LinkedIn. So this is one of the most popular recent attack that happened. And if it was just an attack, just a flawed update that they updated, nobody knows. But yes, this happened. And this shows us that we really need to make sure that all the updates we are making, like a disaster recovery plan we have, a disaster management plan we have, incident response plan we have, we should also have a cyber response plan, cyber incident response plan, where if any cyber attack is occurred, we should see that in what amount of time we can go back to normal operations. If we have that information, like how big the attack is, if we have a plan ready to go back in like next 2 hours, next 3 hours, that prepares us from a big breach, and that prepares us from not shutting down our operations when something like this happens. So yeah, can we go to the next slide? Okay, so the future of cyber forensics. After this slide, I'm going to take some questions because that will be just the careers that we will discuss. So, yeah, hang in there if you have any questions. To cover the future of cyber forensics, as I just mentioned at the beginning of this discussion, it's a very very emerging, I would say, fruitful career, because data breaches are not stopping, data leaks are not spotting, and people are even more diving into the digital era. The things that even the fan is being operated by remote these days, even we are operating every single light by remote these days. So as soon as people are hooking to these digital devices more, you'll see that more attacks will be possible. There was a movie called IT. I would say that if anyone have not watched, you should watch that movie. It is an old movie, but then it showed that a person who was running this big IT firm, he basically hired an intern, and he did not pay attention to that intern for some reason, and then intern got so mad that he took the entire system down because they didn't have securities in place. And not just the company, but then this guy's house was completely remote controlled, completely application controlled. He was able to go into that network, and he was able to control their entire house. So people use Tesla these days. Tesla has a software, and the software, if it gets hacked, you can easily control a car of any person who's out there. So as much more we are going towards these digital devices, we are more prone to attacks. And that's why the future of cyber forensics in itself, if I say it from employment perspective, it's bright, because yes, we need more and more people in this industry to help us fight these crimes that are happening every single day. And one of the emerging trend, which is called AI, is happening everywhere, and it is in cyber forensics as well. And it is also being used by the attackers who are attacking, because AI is obviously, it is a boon and a bane. So it is being used for good purposes, and it is used for bad purposes too. So in forensics, it is used to analyze large data volumes. We have cloud forensics, because a lot of data is being stored on the cloud these days. So cloud forensics is again another important part where you guys could learn a little bit more. And I think the career there is more promising, because not a lot of people are familiar with cloud forensics and how this works. So I think that could also be a good way of entering the industry. And then, of course, the challenges include the encrypted data and anonymization techniques. This is like encryption has new techniques every single day. People are inventing new ways of encrypting it in a more stronger way, so that we are not able to identify it any sooner. So definitely there is opportunity to develop advanced tools to stay in the race, and to make sure that we are advancing to the level of these attacks that are happening, and we can be able to prevent them if in case something is going wrong. So yeah, can we move to the next slide? So again, as I just mentioned, like these are some of the very famous job roles, which is like cyber forensic analyst, incident responder, digital evidence specialist, and then forensic investigator. Some of the key career opportunities, and I think one I'm missing is the cloud forensic expert. That is another one which is very popular these days. And all of these just involve like knowledge of forensic tools, data recovery, then investigation techniques. You should know more and more investigation techniques if you want to enter the world of cyber forensics. You should know legal aspects too, like when you investigate a crime, how do you plan to do it? If you also read a little bit of legal advice towards it, you will be able to go better and do better in your job, especially if you are part of any government spy agency or like any government services. Because suppose if you are part of the tourism ministry of tourism, or if you're part of aviation industry, you will be even more in a sensitive zone, and you'll have to make sure that no attacks are going on, or even like even if something is happening, you are able to like investigate in the best possible way, because these are like really sensitive zones, and it's important to make sure that we are adhering to their ethical guidelines. So that brings us to the end of this discussion. Now I am ready for some questions, so if anybody has any questions, please let me know.
Good afternoon, ma'am. My name is Umar Isa. Please, I would like you to briefly elaborate on the on the autopsy case of the forensic tools.
Sorry, I just want to make sure that I understand your question. You want me to go through the tools in more detail?
You talk about the FTK imager autopsy, slide
Yeah, yeah,
slit, Wireshark. So I want you to elaborate on the autopsy.
autopsy. Okay, okay, sure. So to say that, let's say, and let's take an example of let's say Flipkart. Flipkart is a company that is selling products, and suddenly a lot of their packages are mishandled, or somebody is receiving a package that they have never ordered, and somebody is receiving some other package. Some people are just receiving random packages, or some people are never receiving packages. So basically their entire system is just turning down. At this point, a cyber forensic expert comes into picture. Now what will they do? They'll start with seeing how these packets are being mishandled. Where is the gap occurring? Is it at the end of the person who's placing the order, or is it on our end? If it, because not every person could place an order in a wrong way, so that means our network where we are accepting these orders is somehow not working in a way that it should work. There we come with pictures like autopsy, or like Wireshark. So say that now that I have a point of suspect, which is the passage where I'm receiving these orders. Now I'll create a disk image of it using FTK Imager. Once I've created that, then I'll use autopsy to see whether it's the outside traffic, which is just like infiltrating our network, or whether it is something internal, because hacks could be anything. Hacks could be either internal or external. We don't know who is doing it. So then autopsy helps us to pin out those traces that are being left by people. Either it's internal, either it's external. Once they have those pinpoints identified, then we can go through Wireshark to see, okay, if it is external, then we can see the IP addresses that are coming through it. If it's internal, then we can use sleuthkit into more scrutiny to see, like, okay, now that I have the traces, let's see from which trace system it is coming. Once I have the machine, let's see which employees assigned to that machine. Then we will get into more details, like, okay, who is doing this. And it might be possible that the employee whose name comes into it might not be the person who's actually doing it, because then comes into picture impersonation. And that's when again autopsy comes into pictures to see that, okay, let me see if this employee's timestamp matches the attack's timestamp. For example, their machine is being used, but that person was on leave at that day. So now that means some other person has done that from their machine. So that's how we go into details using autopsy. It's basically uh, going into more and more parts of what an attack has, what kind of attack it was, and how it was layered up.
Oh, thank you, Ma. My questions here are related to choosing a career in cyber forensics. Basically, I'm after the challenges. There are challenges that I noted down for me to ask how can I cope with that particular challenges when applying for a job or being a business independent in that particular area. So my questions here are, as students, so there are challenges for us because mostly these softwares require a workstation, which are very expensive, I believe, and mostly when you apply for a job in cyber forensic career, they will say that you need at least 5 years of experience or a professional certification, which costs a lot of money actually. So, and after you secure a career in cyber forensic, it's all about investigating a crime. There must be a criminal. So what if you if you give that particular evidence to the court and he was being detained or punished? So there must be a certain risk after you've done that. Maybe there will be risks of you being hurted or attacked because you give a certain evidence for someone to be detained or punished. So this is my question. And how can we incorporate artificial intelligence and machine learning to cyber forensic? Because here are a combination of artificial intelligence students and cyber forensic students. So how can we match the two to bring out the best of this particular career? Thank you. These are my questions.
Yeah, thank you so much. Those are some very good questions, I must say. So, to answer your first question, I know that these could be pricey, and of course, the courses are also very pricey. But then, there, as I said, that the tools that I've mentioned, for example, autopsy and even the FTK image, they all have free demos. So even if you don't have to buy the whole licensing thing, you can always go for a free demo and see how these tools work to get an idea of it. And then there are a lot of free tools as well to understand how this process works, and you can learn through using those free tools rather than going for the options that have price from the day one. Also, there are a lot of free courses as well. Even there is a course from MIT. I might send a link to Nidhi ma'am later, which is a free course, and it involves some hands-on experience with tools that they have built internally to learn like how this process is being done. So I must say that definitely I know some of them, but I'll send the links too. But go on Google and then just search for open and free tools for cyber forensics, free courses for cyber forensics, and I'm pretty sure you'll get a lot of content that could help you understand this domain better and to do better while doing the job hers. And people are getting recruited at every stage of time. So basically you might see that okay, it requires 5 years of experience, but then there are trainees as well. Cyber forensics trainees are there, cyber forensics interns are there, analysts are there. So you don't have to start big. You can always go with apprenticeship, training or analysis, and then you can slowly go into system, see how it is working, and then make sure that okay, now you can go to that big step where you can actually lead teams and lead an investigation in your own style. Your second question was if you are actually prone to some kind of physical injuries, just in case you are presenting any any evidence to the court of law. So the thing is, as a cyber forensic expert, you are not showing your picture anywhere. You are not really presenting it to the court. You're not going there. It's just a way of saying that you are presenting the whole report, but it's not you. It would be the lawyer. It would be someone from this company who is handling your legal obligations. They will be the ones presenting this evidence, and you will be the one giving them the report. So again, you are always the internal person. You are never going to be out in the audience because it's always the legal team that handles these battles and that handles these guidelines and languages. You're just the one who is preparing the report, so your name would be all obviously always be confidential. That's why I say the CIA triad is really important, because whenever we are doing all of these things, we need to be make sure like we are confidential about who is involved, who is running the investigation. We need to be integral about what we are doing, and then we need to make sure that the data that we have prepared is available at the time of investigation and at the time of reporting it into any legal proceedings. Okay.
All right.
And then I think there was one more question that you had. Can you repeat that? I think I forgot.
I said we are all students from different field of study. We have cyber forensic students and we also have artificial intelligence students here. How can we incorporate artificial intelligence with cyber forensics to bring the best out of the fields, both of the fields?
Yeah, absolutely. That's another good question. So So basically, the critical thing that you can do is identify the behavior of the attacker. If I know that I have trained my AI to tell me the kind of attack that is being happening, and why would somebody possibly do such kind of attack, so it is always helpful to understand the behavior of the attacker so that we can prevent future attacks. So AI can always help us, first of all, identify how this person is doing this attack, what's their mentality, where are they coming from. That's one thing, that's called human behavior analysis. That's really important when you are investigating these crimes, because in the future, when you are improving your systems to prevent from these crimes to be happening, at that point you can train them according to the human behavior that you have already read and understood. So you will know that, okay, this kind of human behavior is there. Now I should protect my system so that it is not involving, or it is already secured from somebody with this behavior to actually infiltrate in my system. First thing is this. Second thing is data volumes. All the machines, all the tools, all the people who are analyzing data, they can do it in some quantities. Now that the data is massive, AI is helping us to identify and analyze this data in huge volumes, because it's doing that in minutes. And that's what we need when there's a proper crime that has occurred. So definitely handling data volumes, understanding the behavior, training our systems. So when I say that I have autopsy, I have the system, how do I train it to my company's needs? You can always have trained AI, so that autopsy is a software that is available for everybody. But how is autopsy most useful to my company? How can I train my system to do it the best job possible? So AI is mostly used for training systems. And this is just one example, but suppose if I have built an internal system, then I would even need AI even more, because again I have to train it to the way that it prevents some basic incidents from happening, and it gives me reports. Like suppose if this is like a, suppose if there is a very small crime, like we saw, like a password infiltration, like a credit card fraud, something like that, in where there the financial loss is very less and a less number of people are impacted, I would need my AI to give me a report at that very moment about what has happened, why has it happened, how has it happened, what was the method being used, without the involvement of any human. So for all the small crimes that are happening, AI can be trained to just give reports right in time before even providing any inputs to them. Same with machine learning. Machine learning is because in machine learning we have supervised learning and unsupervised learning. Supervised learning is where we give them inputs, and then we get a output from the system saying that, hey, based on the feedback that you have given, this is how I've analyzed the story. And then based on that, they also called unsupervised learning, where we just give them inputs and we train the system for like years, and then at one point the system can do good even without the involvement of any human. But again, using AI and ML is not eliminating human jobs, because at the end of the day, this machine can only give you a report. It can never tell you, is it actually accurate, is it actually making sense, is it actually adding value. That human touch is always needed for anything that you are doing.
All right. Um, I have a quick question, Ma. This is a great webinar, and I believe we all have gained an in-depth knowledge and valuable information of cyber forensics. We thank you all. So my own quick question is that what are the in-demand cyber forensic certifications, and then or which one is among the best? For example, after school, you might want to gain more certification, not just university degree, in cyber forensics. So out there, which one is the best among all of the cyber forensic certifications, in demand ones?
So I think, first of all, McAfee has a good one. McAfee is a security software, and they have their own institute, which is recognized by the Department of Defense. So you can always go for McAfee Institute certifications, because they are like renowned and recognized everywhere. There are investigative programs where all you are doing is just hands-on practice while doing these investigations. Then we have, I think we have CIS, Center for Internet Security. they're again a global IT community, and they are just like they're used for safeguarding organizations against cyber threats. So this company is already having clients, and if you're doing their programs, they are actually training you to like be in a company and like just fight against these threats that are happening. Then I think there are GIAC certifications, which is the digital forensics and incident response certifications. You can also go through them. I would just say, like, search for cybersecurity forensics and incident responder certifications. There you'll get a holistic view of what is being done in the entire process. And of course there are other institutes as well. I'll actually send a link that I really like. It's the EC Council, which is the ethical hacking dot eccouncil.org. Their top security CEH certifications is really very popular. It's the certified ethical hackers, certified cybersec tech, all of these that EC Council is providing. That's really a good one. And I would always suggest to go for certification that involves some kind of hands-on experience, or access to a free tool, so that you can always experiment also what you're learning during these courses.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing your views. Now over to Dr. Nidhi Tyagi.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tanya, for the wonderful session. Before I come to the formal vote of thanks, I would like to request our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Sir, Professor Dr. Vinod Tyagi, Sir, for his words related to the session and his blessings.
Thank you, Dr. Nidhi. First of all, I would like to a big compliment, a capital compliment to the speaker of today's session, Ms. Tanya, for elaborating the intricacies related to the topic. She has discussed quite extensively the different malpractices which are being adopted these days by the hackers, because they do mischief with the data, and they misuse it. How you can secure your data and what precautions you can take. Then if something goes wrong, that what anti-forensic measures can also be taken care of. So a big compliment to the speaker. Secondly, I'm a compliment to the department for arranging such a nice lecture. Third, compliment to the students, specifically the students who have just joined us. They were so curious. They asked some very relevant questions, and the speaker answered the questions very well. I am really grateful to the speaker, to the department, and to the students. Please keep this momentum throughout your studies. And I request the department to arrange such more sessions for the benefit of the students. It was really a wonderful session. And thank you very much to one and all. Thank you, madam.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I also invite Professor Dr. Y. Vimla ma'am for sharing her views. Dean Feast, Shobhit University.
It was amazing for me to listen to such a wonderful talk. So I would like to congratulate you and to Dr. Tanya as well, because Dr. Tanya has been instrumental in bringing to us that knowledge which we didn't have any idea about. So we had only an idea of cyber security, cyber forensics, not the forensics in terms of biological forensics, not in terms of cyber forensics. So how can the software be so helpful in bringing out all those queries which we make? And though it is true that it is all artificial intelligence and all the reports, as she said, need human mind to be working over it. And that I would like to say to all the students also, because they have been putting wonderful queries and the answers were, of course, as wonderful as we could listen to. She has been a really very great expert. And I believe that if you have many more lectures of this kind, all our students are going to be benefited by it. And we will also learn something out of it. So thank you very much for making me a part of this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
A special thanks to Ms. Tanya Gupta for sparing her valuable time from a very hectic schedule, busy schedule she always carries, for giving time to the students and giving knowledge from the very scratch that what cyber forensic is until the job opportunities. About the research also you have covered, about the latest things, challenges which are there, how the students can move in this particular direction, what are the certification opportunities available to the students. Really, it was very wonderful interactive session, and we will be surely remembering this session as a special session for ourselves. And in future also, we would like to connect to you, Ms. Tanya, so that it can be beneficial for our students, not only for our limited students who are connected today especially, but for other students also for our university. It will be great for us if we have you come to our campus also. A special invitation from our side it will be. Thanks to Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, for connecting to the session, the whole session he was connected with us, to Dean Fist, other faculty members, and a special thanks to all the students. I hope the students, it was a great learning for all of you. So thank you from my side. I have shared a feedback link also on this on the chat box of the Zoom link. I request all the participants to kindly fill the feedback form for this wonderful session. Thank you, Ms. Tanya, once again.
Thank you so much. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, everyone. And I would like to express my gratitude and acknowledgement, being the coordinator of the event, myself, Abhinav Pathak. It was a wonderful session related to IT and cyber forensics, and much of these sessions are required by the students at our campus, ma'am. So we kindly request your presence also in the campus, and please do share more such views related to cyber forensics and digital security. And I would like to express my gratitude to Honorable VC Sir, Professor Dr. V.K. Tyagi Sir, Dean Feast, and all the wonderful participants, the students from MSc Cyber Forensics, and other participants also who are present with us in the meeting. Thank you so very much. And thank you once again, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everyone, for your kind words. And then definitely, please let me know if there is anything else I can share with any other participant community, and I would love to do that. And yeah, hopefully, looking forward to seeing you all on campus.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks.